So, students, I shall be teaching one of the topic of your syllabus, that is chemical bonding. And chemical bonding, as you know, is a topic which you had been studying since class 11th at least, and you know most of the basic things about it. Here, the syllabus is, if I speak the topics, it will appear to be similar, but not exactly similar. Some of the new things you will be learning. Therefore, I suggest you to study this chapter seriously so that you can answer all the questions. And don't expect conventional questions now, which you have so far been studying. So, first of all, you note down the syllabus of this topic. So, it is a type of bonding, that is ionic and covalent. Then lattices, unit cells, symmetry elements, and lattices and molecules. And in covalent bonding, you have to study about shape and geometry of some simple molecules using valence bond theory, concept of hybridization, and then molecular orbital theory, which will subsequently change to band theory for conductors, semiconductors, and insulators. And then NMP type semiconductors, and especially only band theory to explain them. And lastly, the difference in ionic solids and all the types of defects in ionic solids like stoichiometric, non-stoichiometric, and their further subdivisions. So this is roughly the syllabus in which we shall be talking about this chapter. So let us start with ionic bonding or ionic bond. So if I ask you how many type of bonds you know, then you will certainly say ionic and covalent, largely. But fact is that as such there is no sharp boundary between an ionic bond and a covalent bond. But this kind of division has been done so that we can explain the properties means which we experimentally observe, the properties of lattices and molecules around us. So note it down very clearly that there is no sharp boundary between an ionic bond and a covalent bond, but this division has been done so that we can separately understand the properties of lattices and molecules. Let me explain it. For example, we know that substances which we call as ionic compounds, they have distinct properties like solubility in polar solvents, high melting points, brittleness, and they consist of typical lattice structure. They exist as solids. The most important thing, they exist as solids, and they have a lattice structure. And in those lattices, a particular unit cell can be recognized. That will explain everything about it, including its formula. So, on the other hand, we have substances like benzene, toluene, water, carbon dioxide. Some are gases, some are liquids. We have naphthalene, which is a solid. At the same time, we have also some solids which are said to contain covalent bonds, like diamond. But diamond has a very high melting point, although it contains a so-called rather weak bond which is called covalent. So the thing is that, but of course, diamond is not soluble in water. So the theories are made to explain the experimentally observed properties. And therefore, we have to have this kind of division that bonds are of two types. Number one, ionic, and number two, covalent. Because as I said earlier, we have a number of properties. Some are soluble in water, some are not soluble in water. And one is very hard and also other is very hard or may not be hard. So we have to find out how the atoms from which they are made, they are bonded together. That's what is the aim of this particular topic, chemical bonding, to understand it. So you will note down some properties of ionic compounds, या in bracket में substances which are supposed to contain ionic bonds. Number one, they are soluble in polar solvents. Why they are soluble in polar solvents? Because their atoms are charged, because the atoms which make them, they are considered as charged spheres, and charged spheres are joined together to make the bond, and this bonding extends. For example, NaCl is being formed, so you have one Cl ion and then you have one Na plus, then again there will be a Cl here, and again Na will be here, and again a Cl will be here, and again a Na will be here, and Cl here, Cl here, Cl from this side and Cl from the inside. That's it. And this will extend almost infinitely, we can say. So what you will see that one sodium ion or atom is surrounded by 6 chlorine atoms, and this network will extend in 3 dimensions. So before I go to solubility, a few things here very quickly. Now what is a lattice? Lattice is repetition of similar points in space. So the lattice is formed here like this. You have one Na, then another Na, then another Na, then another Na, and so on. You have a Cl, then you have the Cl, and then Cl, and then Cl, and then Cl. So you have a repetition of the similar atom at a fixed distance in all the 6 directions where the solid is being formed. So you will say that this is made of lattice, and this is 3-dimensional. Of course, in this lattice we will choose some atoms and try to define a geometry into it, like a cube or a hexagon or any other geometry, so that we can, because geometry will speak of regularity. If we can identify a unit cell, that unit cell is repeated throughout this lattice. So if we can understand the structure of the lattice, then of course we can understand the structure of the solids. And this is what is the property of the ionic compounds, because they are crystalline solids and they are composed of this kind of unit cells. Now why this happens? Because they might be having a cation and an anion. Might be. This is just a theory, this is just imagination that we say that crystal of sodium chloride is consisting of Na plus and Cl minus. Nobody has seen from their eyes And also, it is very difficult even now, today, in modern times, to realize whether the atom which we are identifying through some modern instruments is Na or Na plus. With certainty, we cannot say. But what compels us to believe this? That if we put this NaCl in water, it will dissolve. And we have another explanation for this, that water being a polar solvent has the potential to overcome the electrostatic force of attraction between Na and Cl atoms, because it creates hydration energy. As you know, water molecules will intercalate into this lattice, and the oxygen atoms, they will go to the sodium ions. There will be force of attraction and energy will be released, which is called hydration energy, and that hydration energy overcomes the lattice energy, and eventually the solid dissolves. So all this theory or imagination is best understood if we say that sodium chloride is made of cations and anions, and hence the bond between Na and Cl is ionic bond. So we have been talking about the properties of the ionic compounds. The first property was solidity in polar solvents. Again, second property, they are hard, high melting substances. But with a word of caution, as I said earlier, this is not the sole reason to guarantee that they have cations and anions, because there is diamond which doesn't have cations and anions, but it has much larger melting point than sodium chloride. But nevertheless, we can simply say that okay, if it is high melting, it may be having cations and anions. And the property of ionic compounds is that they are brittle, they are not malleable and ductile, and this property also suits to this thinking that they are made of cations and anions. Why? When you apply a pressure on it, you hit it, then you eventually distort the lattice, to try to distort the lattice. In that process, you bring some of the Na atoms close to Na atoms and some of the Cl atoms close to Cl atoms, and since they are similarly charged, so they repel each other, and with a bang the solid breaks. So that is one more thing which points that they might be consisting of cations and anions. So ionic compounds are not malleable and ductile. For example, if we take iron, metal, or silver metal, they are also hard. Iron also has a very high melting point. So we cannot say that it contains ionic bonds, but it is not brittle. It is malleable and ductile. And that is also an example of a lattice structure that has got some unit cell. So we will come on these things later on. So we talked about some of the properties, physical properties, physically observed properties, which tell us that this substance should contain ions and hence ionic bond. Now, another very important aspect of ionic bonding is, well, I am not going to again speak here because you already know that what is the condition of formation of ionic bond. One atom should have low ionization energy, the other should have high electron affinity, and the resulting lattice energy after combination of so many these cations and anions should be very high. So this thermodynamics you have already read, so I am not repeating it here again. I will come on another aspect, which is the structural aspect of the ionic lattices or unit cells, which follows something called symmetry. These lattices which emerge by the combination of these cations and anions, they follow symmetry. Why they follow symmetry? Because nature also follows symmetry. Largely it follows. Most of the things nature makes is symmetrical. And you must have read in the organic chemistry also that molecules which are dissymmetric, they show optical activity or optical isomerism. So somehow symmetry is a very important aspect. So the question arises, how we will identify that something is symmetrical or not symmetrical. So first we will try to learn that, and then we will apply the concepts of symmetry in case of simplest ionic solid, sodium chloride. And I am sure you already know that unit cell of sodium chloride has been determined by X-ray diffraction studies. Again, we are not going into detail of X-ray diffraction method. We will just pick up the result which comes by this experiment, which tells that the unit cell of sodium chloride is cubic. I will make later on. And the corners and face centers, the largely accepted convention is that chlorine atoms or chloride ions are present at the corners and face centers of the cube, and sodium atoms are present at the edge centers and the one and one body center of the cube. This is the structure of sodium chloride. If you look through the packing concept, you must have read some solid state chapter in which there are two approaches. One is the unit cell approach. Although they are same, although there are two approaches to look into the same problem, that is the structure of the sodium chloride. But so if you go by the packing idea, which is called closest packing, then in case of sodium chloride it is said that Cl atoms are in cubic closest packing. That is a pattern ABC type of stacking or packing. So Cl atoms are in cubic closest packing, therefore the unit cell observed is a cube, face centered cube. As I said earlier, in this cube the Cl atoms will sit at the corners and face centers. So whenever there is a cubic closest packing or closest packing, there are always voids which are created into it, and there are two types of voids, tetrahedral voids and octahedral voids. In this case, the Na atoms are sitting in all the created octahedral voids. So therefore the formula is NaCl. Now why? Because as a rule, the number of octahedral voids is equal to the number of spheres taking part in packing. So if there are 1000 Cl atoms, then there should be 1000 octahedral voids created, and hence the ratio of Cl and Na is 1:1. If you look by, and yes, let me complete it, that the tetrahedral voids which are created in case of NaCl, they are vacant. Nothing is kept into them. And if we look the same thing with the unit cell concept, then we will say that so this way unit cell of NaCl can be made, and Cl atoms are sitting at the corners. And face centers. And we have to find out the formula of the solid. Na atoms are not shown, but they are present at the H centers and the body center. And so on. You can make it will take a lot of time. The point is that when this unit cell is present in the lattice, then this corner, which is made of a sphere of Cl, and the volume of this sphere is V, then V by 8 will be present in this particular unit cell. That can be easily seen from this small cube also. If this is a sphere here, then this sphere is surrounded by 8 cubes. So 1 by 8 will be falling in each cube. In the same way, this is also surrounded by 8 unit cells. So from the corner, the contribution per unit cell will be 1 by 8. I don't write again on the blackboard, you will see, you can do it. Since there are 8 corners, so 8 Cl into 1 by 8 will give you 1 Cl. From the corner, you are getting the contribution of 1 Cl atom per unit cell. If this face is occupied by a Cl atom, it is a sphere, then half of the sphere is present in this unit cell. So face contribution is 1 by 2, and there are 6 faces. So per unit cell you will get 3 Cl atoms. So total Cl atoms will be 3 Cl plus 1 Cl equal to 4 Cl. Similarly, this edge where sodium sphere is sitting, this edge will be common in 4 unit cells. So there are 12 edges. So 12 Na into 1 by 4 comes out to be 3 Na, and 1 at the body center, that will give you 4 Na. So what do you get? 4 Na and 4 Cl atoms per unit cell. So again the formula is Na4Cl4 or NaCl. So that way the formula of the ionic compounds are determined because they have regular structure. Because this unit cell is present everywhere, therefore it has a sharp melting point. So, having said that, I was talking actually about symmetry. What symmetry this particular geometry has, this particular arrangement of atom has. And how we know about it. I want to give you an example. If you crystallize sodium chloride from water, crystallization is a simple process. You make a saturated solution and leave it. Now slowly some crystals will be forming. If you do very carefully the crystallization and you take out the crystals and see under lens, you will see them, their external faces are, their shapes are also cubic. They are cubic crystals. But if you crystallize sodium chloride from ethanol, ethanol is also a polar solvent, there is polarity. It will dissolve, it can be crystallized. Then crystals formed, they are not cubic, they are octahedral. They are octahedral. Now what is octahedral? Octahedral is a geometry which can be made like this. This is one face, this is another face. There are 8 faces in the geometry. And if we take this crystal, octahedral crystal, and put in X-ray machine and find the unit cell, the unit cell is found to be same as we find for cubic crystals. So that tells something, that both the substances are same, their unit cells are same, just external shapes which are appearing before us after crystallization, that has changed into some other geometry, but that geometry and this cubic geometry must be related in some way, because nature simply follows symmetry. Nature doesn't know, the cations and anions doesn't know whether they are making an octahedron or whether they are making a cube. They will eventually crystallize. They will eventually try to sit together to make them stable somehow, or the least energy situation. So, coming to the point, then what is similar? What is similar between these two geometries? And the answer is symmetry. When we will understand symmetry and symmetry elements, then we will realize that octahedron and cube almost contain similar kind of symmetry elements. So now our task will be to understand properly what is symmetry and what are symmetry elements. So definition of symmetry I am speaking, you can note it down. If a body can show, can display more than one similar orientations upon application of the operations of the three symmetry elements or any of the three symmetry elements, it is said to be symmetrical, or it is said to contain symmetry. So the definition of symmetry क्या हुई? If a body can display more than one similar orientations upon applications of operations of some symmetry elements, then it is said to be symmetrical. Now what are those symmetry elements? There are three symmetry elements. Number one, axis of symmetry. Definition you can find in many books. It's very simple. It is a line passing through the body. It must pass through the body, center of the body. And if we rotate the body around this line by a fixed angle, clockwise or anti-clockwise, then before and after rotation, it will look similar. It will display similar orientation. For example, and you will eventually know that so many molecules which you have read so far, they also contain symmetry elements, or they may not contain symmetry elements. For example, CO2, carbon dioxide, a linear molecule, you know. We can find a line here and rotate this CO2 molecule by 180 degree, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Then after and before rotation, it will look similar. Then we say that this has a symmetry axis. The symbol of axis is C. You have to take care, don't confuse it with carbon. The symbol is C. And there is a subscript number here. For example, this is a C2 axis. This number 2 means that you divide 360, you divide by 2, you will get 180 degree. So that angle will eventually come. If you rotate by 180, then only you will get similar orientation. If you rotate by 90, then initially it is looking like this, it will look like this. So it is not similar. So 90 means C4. C4 is not present here. Only C2 is present here. So hope you understand basic definition or meaning of a symmetry axis. So this is the C2 axis. How many C2 axes are present? I will ask you in the discussion forum. If this is one C2 axis, how many are present? And second question, other than this C2, is any other symmetry axis present in CO2? For example, if I ask you, this is an axis or not? Symmetry axis. And if this is a symmetry axis, then which type of symmetry axis it is? You answer me when we discuss about after the class. So anyway, this is a C2 axis. So this is axis of symmetry. Let us have some other examples. Let us take this molecule, boron trichloride. You know it's sp2 hybrid, and trigonal planar structure it has, geometry. Then what symmetry axis it will have? If this is a triangular plane, then a line can pass through perpendicular to this plane, and about this line or axis we rotate this molecule by 120 degree about this axis. Then this CL will come here, this CL will come here, and this CL will come here. And we'll say that this axis is C, because by 120 degree rotation, you are getting the similar orientation. Similarly, this is also an axis present in this body along the one of the BCl bond. If you rotate by 180 degree along this line, then this Cl will come here and this Cl will go there, and you will see similar orientation. It means that it also contains C2 axis, and this C2 axis is perpendicular to the C3 axis. And how many C2 will be there? You know the answer. What? 3. This is one C2 axis, this is second C2 axis, and this is third C2 axis. So it contains 3 C2 axes. So total number of axes present in this body is 1 C3, 3 C2. One thing you must also note down right now, if you are asked about to tell the number of symmetry elements in any molecule or body, then you will find out, as the case will be, as you will learn later. But one symmetry axis is always present in all the bodies, and that is C1. Because if you rotate any body by 360 degree, it will give the similar orientation. So C1 is always present, and it must be told. It is just like 0 in the number system. So if in the exam you are asked to write all the symmetry elements of a particular molecule, you must not forget to write C1 axis along with other symmetry elements. And this is also called identity element. Identity element of symmetry. It is one type of element of symmetry itself, along with axis, plane and point. It is called identity axis. Okay? So now you learn to find out axis of symmetry. For example, you take this molecule, PTCl4, which is a square planar molecule. If I ask you to find out symmetry axis, then you will say that one line can pass through this plane and rotate by this line 90 degree this body, then you will get similar rotation. 4 times this can be achieved. 1, 2, 3 and 4th will be the identical position. So this will contain one C4 axis and perpendicular to this C4 there are 4 C2 axes. 1, 2, 3. So this molecule has one C4 and I don't write like this, I prefer to write like this. 4 C2. Whereas in mathematics this kind of symbols have some other meaning. So you write 4 C2 axis and one C4 axis. C1 always you have to write. This is PCl5. Trigonal bipyramidal. Axis of symmetry you have to find out. So obviously this is 1 C3 and these are C2 axis. 3 C2 axes are perpendicular to the single C3 axis. Okay? Now let us go to our most favorite geometry, that is tetrahedron, your favorite methane molecule. You know the angle, you know what is tetrahedron, it has 4 faces. We have to find out how many symmetry axes it has. So one is visible right now. If you take one CH bond as a line, then these 3 hydrogens will make a equilateral triangle. The carbon is present here and these are hydrogens. The carbon is above the plane of the blackboard and above it another hydrogen is there and this is the axis. You are rotating by 120 degree, you will get similar orientations. So one CH bond is in C3 axis. So how many C3 are there? Answer will be 4 C3 axis. Tetrahedron has 4 C3 axes. Plural of axis. Does it has C2 axis? You find out yourself and you will discuss in the discussion forum. Okay? So I think I should end it and we will connect for your questions on the topics of our talk.